So I'm going to issue a big disclaimer with this video today. I'm going to be talking about things that normally don't get talked about. And in fact, a lot of the things that I'm going to be sharing today and in subsequent videos are areas that I honestly, I've never heard anybody talk about before, but they're things that I think are super important when it comes to understanding the big plan of God. What is the plan? So I'm just humbly offering this to you today, and it's for your discernment. Viewer discretion advised, all the caveats and addendums that need to be added so that you can understand that I'm just sharing things that I've been thinking about, connections that I've been making. So you can do with it whatever you want. Okay, and none of this is thus saith the Lord, but there are things that I'm going to be sharing that I think are super important and things that really need to be addressed if you want to even have a glimpse behind the curtain at the big plan of God. What is the big plan? Now, a few years ago, like back in, I don't know, 2016, 2017, something like that, when I first started my channel and wrote my book and did all of that, I was predominantly interested in understanding the rapture, how the book of Revelation worked, what were the symbols all about, what was sort of the story about our rapture. Okay, and at the time I was a 7-year tribulation, pre-tribulation rapture believer, sort of. I still had a lot of questions about it and questions that people couldn't answer and that hadn't been answered by really by anybody in eschatology who studies or promotes prophecy, end-time prophecy. And so I always had those questions sort of in the back of my mind, things that I couldn't answer, even though I'd been reading the Bible and teaching the Bible for a long time. Things that I wondered about, where did those things come from? Where did those ideas, 7-year tribulation, where did that come from? Was never really comfortable with the answers. What about the rapture? And then after I started really studying this stuff, the first kind of thought that came to my mind was that I needed to kind of come with a blank slate and just let the Lord show me things, not come with a preconceived idea about how things should be with regard to the rapture. And the second thing, it was something that was impressed on me by the Holy Spirit, though I didn't grasp the importance of it at the time. And that was the idea that our rapture is a part of a much larger story. And it's not an isolated event that doesn't fit in with anything else in Scripture. Part of the problem with the way the rapture is taught and all of that is that it's this event that's going to happen at a moment in time. Usually it's at a unscripted or imminent moment where you don't know when it's going to happen, and that nothing has to happen before the rapture, and that even the tribulation, so-called, doesn't necessarily begin with the rapture, that it's this little isolated event that is not a part of the story. It's not a part of any other part of the end time story. It's sort of this little thing out there all by itself. And what I realized the more I was going on through the book of Revelation was that the rapture is connected with a whole bunch of things. It's very connected. And if we don't understand how it's connected, especially how it's connected to other people that are talked about in Revelation, how it's connected to the story and the things that we know are going to happen before our rapture, and the things that are going to happen immediately upon our rapture, and I'm talking about the rapture of the male child, which I which I pray is this fall. And by the way, it's not going to be in conjunction with an eclipse, the April 8th, 2024 eclipse. It's not in conjunction with any spring festival. It's not going to happen over the summer. It's not going to happen over the so-called Feast of New Wine. It's not going to happen at Pentecost. It's not going to happen until the fall. Okay, that is when the rapture is going to take place. It's not going to happen at the Feast of Trumpets. And we don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but it'll happen the 8th day of Tabernacles. And that's like the earliest up until the date for this year, 2024. The last date for this window of rapture for this year would be November 12th. We're absolutely involved in the things that are going to be happening during the end times. Okay, so I hope that hasn't depressed or discouraged any of you, but I'm trying to deal in reality here with spiritual reality. I'm trying to deal with what I see in the book of Revelation. And if you're interested, there is an exhaustive, extensive end time timeline based on the book of Revelation. In the description box, there is a couple of links for that in other languages, in a large print version, I've done everything I can, and people have been working with me to get this stuff out there. And so if you haven't gotten a copy of that, I strongly suggest that you get a copy. And, however you can make that work. Also, that you may want to get the jump drive that has my videos on it. So all of this is stuff that I've been thinking about. It's my understanding, doesn't make it 100% right. I'm just putting this stuff out there because these are things I've been thinking about, and you may be interested in musing on them as well. So there's going to be more than one video in this series, and I'm not even sure what I'm going to call this series yet because I just don't know, but I'll let you know eventually. And it will be a playlist. So, the first thing I want to bring out is we should never underestimate the importance of eschatology. So a lot of things I hear out there about eschatology is that it's not a salvation issue. So because it's not a quote unquote salvation issue, it's not really important. Okay, it's basically what we're saying is it's not really that important. Salvation is the most important thing, and eschatology is just not that important. Well, I would beg to differ with that. I mean, salvation is important, of course, but what I've come to understand is that eschatology is the foundation of all Christian theology. The belief in the rule and reign of Christ on earth and the eternal state is the foundation of everything else. We're being saved for the end, okay, for what God has for us in the end. This is what everything is all about. The eschatology is the foundation of everything. And if we don't value the end, we'll get lost somewhere in a mediocre, half-baked, lukewarm Christian life where we're just living for this world, where we think this world is where everything has to be achieved. The end state is what we're living for, and eschatology tells us what that is about. Eschatology, believe it or not, has at its foundation the death, resurrection, and glorification of Christ. It helps us to understand the present day ministry of the Holy Spirit, the purpose for the church, okay, the ecclesia, the called out ones. What is the purpose for the church and what God tends to achieve through his eternal plan? All Christian doctrine needs to be understood in the light of the end goal, which is God dwelling with men, him obtaining sons, Christ obtaining a bride. How will all of that come about? What does God want us to know about the big plan? Who are the characters in the big story? And how will all things come together at the very end? This is what eschatology is all about. And indeed, this is what Christianity is all about. It's less about the rapture. Eschatology is not about the rapture. It's not only about the second coming of Christ and the arrival of the Antichrist and the tribulation and the seals and the bowls and the trumpets and all of that. It's about God's plan to complete his work for that eternal day. Okay, for the eternal day when God will dwell with men on a new earth. For believers, the details and particulars about the last things are found in the Bible. God has revealed the end of the story in his word. Both the Old and the New Testaments are full of apocalyptic prophecies. The New Testament book of Revelation is where the people who are going to be living during the end times, okay, that's you and me, that's us, is dedicated. This book of Revelation is dedicated to the last few years that are going to take place before the second coming of Christ, before he sets up his millennial reign, and before the new heavens and the new earth. So the scriptures tell us that we can understand the big picture concerning the end, and we know this from what's recorded in the beginning about how things began. And that's what Isaiah tells us, that we can know the end of the thing from how it started. And the first things are recorded in the book of Genesis. And the information contained in Genesis is the foundation upon which Revelation is built. All right, so let's go back to the very beginning. And I want to go back to the beginning as it's recorded in Colossians 1:15 and 16. For he, that is Christ, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, in heaven, on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him, and get this, for him. All things were created through Christ and for him. Okay, he's the firstborn. That means he's the inheritor. He's the one who is going to control and operate all these things. They were created through him and for him. Things that are on earth, things that are in heaven, things that are visible, things that are invisible. And the thrones, the powers, dominions, rulers, authorities. This is the system that he uses to operate his world. So what this passage in Colossians tells us is that Christ created all things. He is member of the triune God, that community of deity. He's the eternal Son, and he is the creator of everything. And it says that every created thing belongs to him personally. The things that we can see, the things that we can't see, things in heaven, things on earth, angels, living creatures, cherubim, even Lucifer and Satan was created for Christ. He set up the system by which all these things would operate. He established who would have responsibility, exercising authority in the various created realms. In Colossians 1, Paul uses the terms thrones, dominions, rulers, and authorities to describe the way Christ would administer his world. The emphasis here in Colossians is not so much on what God made, but how it would be stewarded. So Christ created the heavenly places. He created the earth upon which we live. He created places on earth that are clearly visible to us, the mountains, the sea, the animals, the plants. He created places that are invisible to us, including the space under the earth, which would eventually be inhabited by the souls of the dead. And this place where the dead would eventually go is called Sheol in Hebrew, or Hades in Greek. Sheol or Hades is the place of the dead. It's not accessible or visible to those of us who are living on the earth, but it was, like everything else, created in the beginning. And this was a really mind-blowing thought for me. So when did God decide to make the place of the dead? When did he decide to create Sheol, Hades? And then I'm thinking about this and I'm like going like, well, the Bible tells us that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Like he created everything then, in the beginning. So did he create Sheol or Hades, the place of the dead, in the beginning, before there was any person and before anybody had ever died? The answer to that is yes. Sheol is associated with the earth. It's under the earth. Okay, Sheol is a part of this earth, as is the pit, the abyss, the place where fallen angels are kept in chains until the judgment of the great day. The pit is also a part of the earth. It's under the earth, and it was created in the beginning. And you know what? The lake of fire is somewhere too. I think the lake of fire was created in the beginning. Okay, and we know that the lake of fire was created for the devil and his angels. That's the primary occupants who are going to be going into that place. As of now, it's empty. It's not, there's no created being who is in the lake of fire right now. Although in Sheol, there are billions and billions of people in Sheol or Hades, the place of the dead. Some of them were removed when Christ led captivity on high, when he took captives from Sheol and brought them with him into heaven. Okay, and that's I did a video called Jailbreak or something like that. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. When people were resurrected, at the time when Christ was resurrected, they were the gleanings of the souls who had died in faith, some of whom were taken in their spirit body, their spirit man, into heaven when Christ ascended. This is in Ephesians. But even now, there are billions of people in Sheol. It's the grave. Okay, everybody who dies goes to Sheol or Hades unless you are a believer, unless you've been born again of the Spirit of God, and then your spirit or soul doesn't go to Sheol or Hades. It goes to be with the Lord in heaven. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Our spirits go to be with God in heaven when we die as believers. But if you're an unbeliever, even if you're a good person, you're going to Sheol, and you'll be resurrected at the end, at the time of the great white throne judgment. And that's when your eternal destiny will be determined. So my understanding of this is that everything that was created in the beginning, and it was there for a purpose as part of the eternal plan of God. And though it may be kind of a new thought for us, and it certainly was a new thought for me, but Christ anticipated the need for these underworld places. He anticipated, he foreknew that there would need to be a place for the souls of dead people, dead sons of Adam, okay, children of Adam created in his image, that there would need to be a place for their souls to go once their body died. What that means then is he anticipated the fall of men. And if you go back even before that, remember Eve was tempted by the serpent, by the Nakash, the shining one. And I believe that's Lucifer, Satan. And he had fallen before. So it also Christ anticipated the fall of Satan, Lucifer. He anticipated that would happen and made provision for it. The fall of both angels and men was sort of baked into the original plan of God at creation, actually even before anything was created. And here's the question: why? Why would Christ intentionally build a world where sin was not only a possibility, but it was actually a certainty? What would he hope to achieve by opening a door to the inevitability of sin? And not only that men would fall, people, but also angels, that angels would fall, that they would sin. What possible purpose could there be that was great enough, that was big enough to compensate him? And really for us too, compensate us too for the devastation, the ruin, death, and the usurpation of his creation. Okay, these are all questions that I've been asking. It seemed to me that God created, that Christ created the place of the dead at the very beginning when he made everything, built in under the earth. And so was the pit, the place where rebellious angels who overstepped their bounds would have to go, awaiting the judgment day. And also the lake of fire, the place where angels will ultimately, their ultimate destiny for fallen angels, and also anyone who takes the mark of the beast, worships the beast, and so on. What could possibly be great enough to compensate Christ and to compensate God the Father and all of us who've been a part of all this? These are questions that I've been asking, and we're going to explore these in a future video. So I hope you'll stay tuned, and I hope I'll get these videos up in the next few days or so. So let me know what you think in the comments section, and we'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.